All right, so let's get into blueprints now. And in order to have this, remember that you need to go to plugins, go here and type Landmass. Otherwise, you won't be able to access this, all right? So let's go to landscape and let's clear this up. We don't really need this, so let's just right click, clear all, click OK. And now you will have a layer here, right? You can add new layers if you want it, but for now we're gonna use the base one and we're gonna go blueprint. And what you will see here is that you have a blueprint brush property and you can just choose anything you want. So for us, the custom brush landmass is what we're looking for. So if we go here, sorry, yeah, is this one? Nothing will happen, but if I click here, you will see that I have 3 dots. I also notice that in the right side of the screen, I have a landscape custom brush landmass. So as soon as these shaders compile, you will see what's going on here. It's in the top left corner of the screen. It's like only 10 left, and there you go. At any moment, guys. It's just actually let's move this. There you go. Looks like you need to move it a little bit. So let's go to details panel. If you cannot find it, press F4 to go to details panel, and you will see that I have some properties here. Now, before we go into the properties, I need you to take a look at this spline here. These points you can actually move. Notice that I'm using this landscape custom brush landmass, and here on the left I have my layer blueprint brushes, so I can toggle those on and off if I wanted, or I could remove them so I don't need to find them here in the outliner. So I can just go to here and just move them like this, right? I can just move it around, something like that. All right, so we have like a little pyramid. If we wanted, we could go here, right click and add a spline point. And what it will do is just add another point for us so we can add even more details. Another thing you can do is to click here to leave the spline edit mode and click on this one, and you can actually move it around. So it's very cool because it's very non-destructive. You can rotate it, you can play with it, and you can scale it if you want. There are a bunch of things you can do with this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the properties now. So in order to see the properties, notice that I chose my spline, and you see these properties that are not the same. Make sure you choose this one, landscape custom brush. All right. So the first one is auto spline tangent. It basically will move if I click on the tangent here, I can move it around to play a little bit with the tangent. And then I can go auto spline to everything will be a little bit more like smooth. All right. So you have the blend mode, the alpha blend. You also have the minimum, which will basically do like a subtraction. You have the maximum, which pretty much will do a different kind of math operation, and then the additive, which will add, when you have some sculpt here, this will add on top of it. So alpha blend seems to be the best choice for you. All right, you can also invert the shape. So basically do an inverse operation here. Whatever was positive before, now it's negative. So you get something like this. All right. Next thing is cap shape. Cap shape will basically, cap the shape. You don't see anything because I don't have any C offset. But if I do the C offset, you will see that it's actually cap here. And this is very useful sometimes. You can remove cap the shape if you want and leave this in 0. All right, material, we don't really need to change it because we're not gonna change the materials of the landmass brush. Static mesh and spline mesh also, we don't need to change that. Let's go to the effects because that's where the magic happens. So for the effects, you have the blur. So you could, like, you can see that the edges are blurred here. If I go 0, you will see that it's very harsh. And that doesn't look very well. So I can go 1. If I go like 5, everything will look like super smooth, which is very nice, to be honest. You be able to control this kind of behavior. And then you have the curl noise. So you have the curl noise strength 1 and 2. They will have different tilings. So if you go here and add a little bit of curl noise for this, you will notice that what's happening is we're having some natural formations for this. And also, if we go for curl strength 2, we will have even more, all right? So we can also, like, you know, move things up and down. We can scale things if we want it, all right? Something like that, for example. And we have some interesting design here for our mountain, right? So the next thing, we don't need to use the curves. It's something that maybe I will show you later, but for now, it basically will just make a profile for you to create those slopes. So displacement, kind of important. We need to go for displacement height. So if I go to 10, nothing will happen. You'll see something happen here. I can go for 1024, and you will see what's happening here is that I'm actually adding some noise into this, which is really nice. I can also change the tiling to make it smaller or bigger. So for example, if I go for something like this, it will be smaller, so you don't see much noise. And if I go for the tiling like 50, you will see that I can see the noise. So very, very cool. I tend to not play with this too much. I can also like make it a little bit, add more strength. And the next one, it's the smooth blending. So inner smooth threshold, it's gonna work if we have something on top. Like if we sculpt something here, this one will blend. So you won't see anything here. But if we go for the outer smooth, this is where things start getting really interesting, because we can start increasing this. And look what happens. We're starting to blend between this mountain here that we had and the ground that we had before. So we can just go here and just go for something like this, for example. And obviously we can move this, we can play with the shapes and everything. For example, I can Alt and click. If I like these settings, I can Alt and click and move it here. And maybe make them a little bit smaller or bigger, depending on what you're looking for. And you can have something like this. You can play with the lining a little bit. And that's the beauty of having this landmass. So let me go for this one. And another thing that you can do is add the terracing. So if you go for the terrace alpha, let me show you what I mean. I can increase the size of this, the strength, and I also can change the spacing. For example, I can put like 512. So what will happen if we have this kind of like, you know, it's just the name that it's using, it's terracing. It's like just adding those steps like a staircase here. Some formations are like that. You may want to play with those. It's definitely something you can play with. You can also add the smoothness of it, so you don't have like a super harsh transition like this. You can go for something more like that if you want. It's up to you to play with those settings, but that's it for the landmass. Now, from this point on, we will create our landscape, and part of your task is to create some brushes. find some settings that you like and play with this. So you can just Alt and click to duplicate. You can increase the size if you want. You can rotate. You can also change the position of this. You know, you can play with this. You can add a spline point, right click, add spline point, and make it like that. Add another spline point here. No, something like that. And maybe you can move it to make it closer. Let's just go here. And just move it around. You know, to have something like this, and you can rotate it if you want. And you know, you can also play with the outer blend. So if we go here for outer smooth blend, we can go for something like this. And it's great. It's great that we now have these settings. So your task is to just play with these tools and create a small mountain for you to use. And we'll see you in the next lesson.